we'll discuss race and how it plays a factor, and how we didn't even talk about this topic because we were afraid.
A Black executive perspective.
We are coming to you live from College Park, Maryland, for another thought-provoking episode of a Black Executive Perspective podcast, safe space where we discuss all matters regarding race, culture, and those uncomfortable topics people tend to avoid. I'm your host, Tony Tidbit. And so today, our co-host, my man, the co-host with the most, Chris P. Reed, is traveling. So I have my boy today, Mark Jamison, who wants to jump in and provide his perspective on some of the topics and stuff to that nature. So we're really excited that he's here. Mark, you want to tell everybody about you real quick?
Yeah, thanks for having me here. Really excited to be here. My name is Mark Jamison. I am the owner of Kid Up Training, but my day job is learning and development. I love to explore the learning process, and I've seen that in universities, the government, and even in public service. So bringing that perspective, seeing how communities, government works, and all of those things work all together, I would like to bring my perspective, my thoughts. So thanks for having me here.
Well, look, my man, we're excited that you're here. We got a bunch of stuff to dive into, so let's make it happen. So today, we're going to talk about, one of the things that's going on right now, right, is that the middle class is struggling, okay? They're stretched thin, voices are quiet, power keeps protecting itself. While everyday Americans are fighting to stay afloat, the powerful ones are, pardoning their own people and they're making more and more money, right? So today we're not just going to talk about politics. This is really personal because obviously, Mark, myself, we're considered middle class. We're in the middle class, so we can definitely speak to this, right? But right now, one of the things is the middle class is really getting squeezed, and that's the backbone to America, right? So the question that we have tonight is, who's really paying the price? And how much longer can the middle class stay silent? So Mark, you ready to talk about this, my brother?
Sure am. Ready to talk.
Because this is it's going on too much. And at the end of the day, we got to start bringing, the voice to this issue regarding the middle class, right? So you ready to dive into it, my brother?
Let's do it.
All right, let's hear what people are saying.
Ever notice being middle class feels like you're a meat in the shit sandwich? Too well off for help, too broke for happiness. I'm paying bills like I'm teething to some invisible god named late fee. They say the economy's fine. Fine for fucking who? I'm one blown tire away from pawning my kidneys on Craigslist. Rich people, I had diversified my portfolio. Buddy, I diversified by deciding which bill I don't pay this month. Should I eat food or keep the lights on? Let's spin the goddamn wheel. The government says you don't qualify for assistance. Yeah, because I make $2 over the poverty line. Congratulations, I'm officially too rich for ramen, too poor for sushi, living off existential dread and overdraft fees. Rich folks buy second homes. Middle class buys a second job. I got a side hustle, a main hustle, and a hustle invented out by sheer panic. They say invest. Invest in what? I'm investing in praying my car makes it through one more winter.
You got us working 60 hours a week, can't afford health care, can't afford daycare, and God forbid you make $2 over the income limit, then boom, all your benefits vanish. So they punish you for trying to do better.
Let's be honest. Everything that we were told about the American dream is starting to look like a lie. Work hard, go to college, buy a home, and you'll be set, right? Well, not anymore. The middle class, the backbone of this country, is disappearing. And if you're feeling like you're working harder than ever before, but falling further behind, you're not imagining it. Welcome back to The Imperfect Dollar. Let's talk about what happened to the middle class and the lies that we were told along the way.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, when you're thinking about that, Tony, I'm like, you're getting squeezed from all sides, right? And when we talk about the middle class, it's a wide range. So you have people that earn $30,000-$40,000 a year. You have people that are earning $200,000 a year, and somehow everyone is still feeling the squeeze. So it begs a question of what's causing it, right? I mean, we have so many costs leaving from insurance. We have school bills. We have just day-to-day electricity bills going up. I mean, even in my area, it's gone up 30% over the last 2 years, 3 years, right? Which is a tremendous amount of money when you're talking about your income not going up 30% year over year, right? So
Correct, correct.
definitely hear that.
Yeah, listen, it's funny because, well, it's not funny, but what you heard in that clip, especially from the two individuals, is so true. Even though they were, putting some levity to it, they were speaking the truth, right? At the end of the day, everything is expensive. Okay. More importantly, to your point, wages don't go up based on the cost of living, right? So we're always behind. Our politicians don't focus really on the middle class. They focus on low income people and the rich. Okay, and then at the end of the day, who's paying the backbone of the taxes? It's the middle class. Rich people don't pay taxes. Okay, and at the end of the day, poor people, they don't pay taxes either because they don't make enough money to pay taxes. So the middle class is the one that's getting squeezed at every end. And here's the thing, and she said it. When we talk about the American dream, right? It's, you go to school, go to college, you get a degree, you buy a house, you raise a family. And look, let's be fair. That life is never going to be perfect, right? There's always going to be things that, happen. However, when you think about the American dream, that's it. And you're supposed to be able to rise to a certain level. And comfort is, but at least live a comfortable life, right? But at the end of the day, that doesn't happen. Okay. And what's frustrating, it also used to be about where you lived at, right? So if you lived in a certain area of the country, that part of the country may be a little bit more expensive than other parts of the country, right? So if you're on the East Coast, you live in New York City, all right, or Washington, D.C., or Boston, well, yeah, the city life is probably going to be a little bit more expensive than if you live in the suburbs of rural America. But today, it's expensive no matter where you go. All right, you can go to Montana, you can go to Cheyenne, Wyoming, you can be in Tupelo, Mississippi, you can be wherever, and everything is expensive. And there's nobody really looking out for us and really trying to help us, right? That's the problem, Mark. That's one of the problems.
Exactly. I mean, every single one of those points are accurate. It's because you have a cost of living that's going up exceptionally each year. And like they were saying, I think he said, can't make too much for, make too much for, or make too little for sushi, but too much for ramen, right? And there's a real reality to when you have any type of benefit that you're getting, that as soon as you make 50 cents, $1 more, they kick you off. So that means someone who just finally got that promotion, just finally got a raise that they can sustain themselves, now they're being put off of the benefits that helped them get to that point in the first place. So people then have to make a choice, not just between do I eat today and do I pay bills, but do I get that better job if the offer's on the table, because I might lose more than I'm actually going to gain from having a higher income. And I think that's something that a lot of people felt, especially in these last few years, where yes, they were making a couple of gains where they might have been able to get a new position, their income might have gone up a little bit, but with inflation, with the cost of insurance going up, with the cost of living just in general increasing, none of that made any sense. So it's like, well, if I make $10,000 more, but my costs now go up substantially,
15,000 more, 20,000
right,
more, right?
Anything, and so I think the buildup is difficult.
Yeah, as you were just saying that, my blood pressure started going up, right? Because these are things that we're just not here pontificating on. We're living, okay?
Right.
And so that's the issue 9 times out of 10 is that at the end of the day. So Chris and I always talk about this, and it's true. When things don't affect you, the first thing you say is, what are you talking about? Because they don't affect you, right? So our politicians, when you live in a bubble, or you're a billionaire, or you're a millionaire, right? And you're like, what are you talking about? So I don't see what you're talking, because their focus is on the stock market. Okay, so if the stock market is doing well, they're like, what are you talking about? The economy is doing great, right? But they're not focused on Main Street issues because they don't go buy eggs. They don't have to worry about the heat bill. Okay, they don't pay taxes like we pay taxes. They don't have to worry about the insurance bill. They don't have to, all these little bitty things. And that's how they, what it does, it's not just one big thing. It's a lot of little bitty things that add up. Okay, to your point, groceries, utilities, insurance, going out, comfort food, going to a restaurant, or going to a game, or your kids putting your kids into childcare. You name it. There's no relief. Remember back in the day, when you live in the summertime, you got to have the air conditioning on, right? So typically your light bill goes up, right? But it used to balance itself off because you didn't have to have the heat on. So that would go down, right? And you're like, oh, we'll save a little money. It don't matter because at the end of the day, in the summertime, the light bill goes up. And then in the wintertime, the gas bill goes up. So it's not even a break there, right? However, let's hear what some other people are talking about when they're talking about how the middle class is being squelched.
Yeah.
I am in my 30s. I have my master's in business administration. My husband is an engineer. We should be making great money and be golden when it comes to money, right? That's what I was raised thinking. And instead, just like everybody else, we are living paycheck to paycheck.
An engineer alone makes upwards from about $90,000 to double that, depending on how long they've been in that trade. So with her husband being an engineer and her having her master's degree in business administration, they should be making, I would think, close to $200,000 plus per year. But this is what's happening all across America. It's becoming more normalized that people are living paycheck to paycheck. One study that I read said that about 61% of Americans are now struggling and living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah. When I'm thinking about that, I'm actually reminded there was a survey, and it probably comes up every year, where an American can't afford, like most Americans can't afford $1,000 emergency, right? And we think about how many things have been happening over these last few years where people have had to pay for them, from floods, disasters, power going out from, ice storms, and like people are strapped. And then you think about not just the high cost of interest on things like housing and mortgages, but the sheer cost of the house itself. It doesn't matter how low the interest is. When your home costs $500,000, $1 million where you live, you can't afford it unless you are in that top percentile. And I think that's what she's expressing here. If you're bringing in about $200,000 a year, that used to be what you looked up to, right? Six figures. When I remember when I was growing up, six figures was the thing, right? If I just get 6 figures. But now the reality is 6 figures for so many people is first a pipe dream, because most people won't make 6 figures, right? That's just not how companies like to pay people. And then the people who are doing it, like you were saying before, they're concentrated in certain areas of the country. So that means that only those areas are getting those increases in income, but those are now the highest cost of living areas. And when folks move to smaller cities, like the cities that have been growing through the South, Charlotte, you look at Houston and Dallas, you're looking at Atlanta, their growth, those places are now excessively expensive for the people who used to live there. Because,
Absolutely.
And now those people are being squeezed.
Flat out, buddy. Flat out. It reminds me, this was years ago. This was probably in the early 90s, where it was they had this television commercial. I forget, it was I don't know if it was Charles Schwab. It was one of those brokerage commercials, right? And the father is talking to his son, and he's saying, "So how?" He says, "So how you doing?" And the son says, "I'm doing pretty good." And the father says, "So when you say doing pretty good, what are you making around 30?" And then the son sheepishly says, "Yeah, I'm making around 30, right? And then the father says, you're making 30 and you don't have a stock plan, something to that effect, right? And so think about that. 30 years ago, you're making 30. You were
Right.
doing good.
Right.
All
Right.
right. Think about that. All right. And then you were supposed to be, you had money saved. You had enough money to save to put in the stock market, right? Think of 30 grand a day, you living in the slums. Okay. At the end of the day, if you do 30, if you making 30 grand, and if it's just you and your wife, it's just you, where you living? Tell me where you're living at. Tell me what rent is $1,000, $2,000 a month. And just, buddy, do the math here. Let's just do the math. Let's just go back to what you were saying a minute ago. She was saying that she makes 90,000. She's an engineer. Let's say she makes 100K. Okay. At the end of the day, if she has a mortgage or rent is $2,000-$3,000 a month. So let's just say it's $3,000. That's 36,000 net. When somebody makes 100K, that's gross. So they may take home 66,000, maybe 65,000. So if the rent is $3K a month just to live, that's 36,000 coming out. That's 60. So now you only got 30,000 left. Then you got to throw the groceries, car note, utilities, all the other things. How can you? So this is why people are living paycheck to paycheck. 60% of Americans think, and let's just do the math here. Wait a minute. Didn't they just say, what's his name? My man who runs Tesla.
Elon
Didn't
Musk.
they just put together Elon Musk? Didn't they just put together a package, a $1 trillion
$1 trillion.
pay package? What, buddy? $1 trillion pay package. Okay, pay for one dude. When somebody can't even afford to get a cup of milk, can't even send their kids to daycare, they can't afford it. Okay, who pay taxes every year? Okay, they're paying taxes. The middle class is the backbone of America. What do we mean by that? Just to be clear, the majority of taxes that's paid in the United States is paid through the middle class. The majority of the money that's spent from an economic standpoint comes from the middle class. Okay? The majority of work of people that's going out working and making the country go 24/7 is the middle class. Okay? But at the end of the day, there's no, what's that? Why do we, what was the Boston Tea Party? No representation without, how did it go? No
taxation without representation.
Right. But the bottom line is we're getting taxed to death and we still ain't got no representation.
Exactly.
Okay?
Exactly.
It's insane, buddy. It's insane.
Right. And people feel it, right? And I think, more and more we're hearing about it, more and more we're like, okay, somebody needs to do something different. We saw the elections that have come up. We're seeing people complain about it online, but this is not just recently, right? I think this really started 4 or 5 years ago when there was a big boom right after COVID where you started having high stocks. During COVID, people started coming back to the office, 21, 22. You started seeing a little bit more economic growth. But people weren't feeling it because everything started driving up in costs, right? So it started off with the recovery from just all the paused economic activity throughout the world. Once that was coming back, people were like, okay, we'll give it a few months, right? We'll give it a little time to resettle. But over time, it didn't go down. And in part from greed, where we're talking about people getting $1 trillion package, right? First, there's absolutely no way to spend that money in a lifetime.
You're not going to even spend $1 trillion. Buddy, think about it for a second. There's no way to spend it. For them to even put that together, okay, is absurd. Okay,
Right.
to even put together a
audacity.
package to put what nobody would ever spend that money in 100 lifetimes. Okay, and for you to even put that together and it's the front page and to put it together for one person, buddy, it just shows you where we are. But you said a key point here. You think about it. A lot of this happened right after COVID, right? Remember, it shut down, and then finally people started getting back out. And then, you could go skiing or you could do a cruise for a little bit of nothing, right? They were giving cruises away because they wanted to get people back coming on ships because people wouldn't go. And that's just one thing. But after that, we saw a massive amount of costs. Inflation went to the yin yang. And then to your point, then you had the corporate greed. Okay? Because here's the thing. Eggs prices just don't rise because of one grocer, okay, in terms of them saying, you know what, we're gonna make another 50 cents. It rises from the top, okay? Everything, all these prices and insurance prices. I'm not even talking healthcare. I'm talking auto insurance, home insurance. To your point, you had these disasters. You pay insurance. This is the point that drives me crazy. You pay insurance, home insurance, right, to protect your home in case some shit happens, right? You're paying hundreds of dollars a month or thousand, depending on where you live at, okay, to protect your home. Nothing happens to your home, then all of a sudden a tornado happens or a hurricane or something to that effect. And then the insurance company don't want to pay. For years, you paid them for 10, 15 years. You paid them money month after month after month. And they got commercials coming on saying, we're the good hands people, or we're this and we're that. We're going to take care of you. And they got little geckos laughing. And they got all these different things talking about how great they're going to be, how they're going to be there in case of something happens. And then when some shit happens, they have the audacity to look you in the eye and tell you, what's that? Remember Goodfellas? Fuck you, pay me.
Basically, because you pay it up
what
front,
they're saying.
and then
You're
they're
paying
like,
up front,
well,
and then
well,
you had a hurricane hit your house. Fuck you, pay me.
right, exactly.
Okay, a bowl
and
of
any
dinner,
excuse,
fuck you, pay me.
any excuse, right?
And why? But again, buddy, who is the ones that's struggling the most? The middle class, right? But I don't hear, and again, maybe it's me. I love to hear your thoughts on this. I don't hear nobody champion. They all say it. I take that back. They, we got to look out for the middle. They don't look out for shit.
Right. I was
They
going to
don't
say
do nothing.
We hear the words, right? But they don't walk the walk, right? Or as a former colleague, they don't walk the talk, right? What they say does not match their actions. And when they do something, a little bit of something, getting in anticipation of some good action, they half-ass it. So they'll water it down all the way till you can't even put it into practice, or it's easy to block. If you pass something federally, you have a state that's like, well, I don't want to do that, so I'm just not going to expand ACA, or I'm just not going to enforce these laws and these policies. I'm going to buck up against it, not because it will benefit the people, but because it will benefit the people, right?
That's an excellent
Right?
point, my brother.
And so
Let's hear some more. Go ahead, finish your thought.
No, let's hear some more.
Let's hear some more.
Into the stock market, real estate, and other companies is what the middle class was able to do decades ago when they had the extra funds to be able to do it. It's becoming more rare that the middle class is able to do that, to be able to grow their wealth and go into the upper middle class or higher. That's not happening anymore. Instead, in 2025, they're experiencing more financial strain because of inflation. Food is more expensive. Utilities are more expensive. Housing costs are more expensive, and wages are not increasing, just like for the other classes, the middle class as well.
Right. Yeah, even where to start. I mean, I'm thinking about, I saw a chart the other day where I think stats were like 2021. The top 1% begins at like 3.1 million at 2021, while the lowest percentile is about $20,000. The number of people that could be hired off of 20,000, that's 140 people. If every one of those people worked at the lowest wage, 140 people could fit in the minimum of our top 1% percentile.
But they still wouldn't be able to live nowhere.
They wouldn't, because they couldn't afford
it. So
Right.
And that's the issue, man, is
Right.
that people can't afford. See, here's the thing. I'm all about capitalism, Okay, so somebody goes out and they build a business and they're able to become successful and make a ton of money. I'm all for it, right? The challenge is that at the end of the day, we still need an economy. We still need a country where every regular day people can afford it. And here's the thing, because I want to be clear here in what we're talking about. And I'm pretty sure I would think we're clear, but we got to say the words, okay? We're not talking about people who are lazy, who's sitting around not working, who's expecting the government to do stuff for them. We're not talking about those people. And that's a small percentage anyway, to be fair, right? To be fair, right? We're talking about the backbone of the country. We're talking black people, white people, Hispanic people, Asian people. We're talking all different people, all different religions, all different creeds, right? That get up every day and they bring it, right? And they bring it to help companies be able to grow, and those companies put money into the economy, and it helps the economy grow, and it helps these countries grow. We're talking about the farmer. We're talking about the laborer who's building the highways. We're talking about the construction person who's building houses. We're talking about the people that wake up to make the bread and make the coffee. We're talking about the people every day that gets up that makes America turn 24/7. Okay. And so is it a lot to ask? Is it a lot to ask for those individuals who get up and part of the American dream to work and be able to get a decent house to bring their kids up, and to her point, be able to have enough money to grow their wealth? Okay. So at least they have something to leave behind their kids. If emergency happens, they got money in the bank. Most people don't have big savings account. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, to your point, $1,000, if somebody's car engine blows up, they're fucked. Because 9 times out of 10, they're going to have to pick, I got to take money away from here to fix this. And people can sit back and say, well, that's their fault. They should have saved money. Shut up. Shut up.
You can't
Okay,
say
because
with
anybody,
nothing.
exactly. But the only person that's saying that is somebody who's out of touch. Because these are people who had savings, but life comes up and they have to, but they're not making more money on their wages. But we can see somebody get a $1 trillion package. We can see when Microsoft lays off 10,000 or 15,000 people, we see their stock prices go up. So the company becomes more valued. Okay. We can see all that. We can see Amazon getting rid of 30,000 people and they make more money. But the 30,000 people who, they may get a severance package, but at the end of the day, they're on the street, and the economy and everything around them is going up. So I wish somebody can hear us on this, because these are the people that bring it. And without them, there is no country, there is no company, there's nothing. Okay? And can we get some help? Because somebody come and help. And I don't want to hear this fake ass, oh, we're going to do this. We're going to cut your taxes by 1/4%. We're going to put another $100 in your pocket. Shut up. That makes no sense. We're going to save them $1,000. The big, beautiful bill is going, each American's going to have another $2,000. Are you for $2,000? $2,000 over a year.
Wait.
$2,000. You're
Right.
kidding me.
Right. We put more than that paying out what the tariffs cost
But
during the year.
you lose money even talking. We lost $2,000 right now in this conversation.
Basically. And like I sit here because people will seriously argue, like I feel bad. I guess at my age, I look at, my older counterparts and I'm like, you guys have hit every economic crisis and you're seeing the collapse happen real time. I look at my own age group and I'm like, we had a lot of the promise, but as soon as it was like right within reach, economic collapses happen. Then we look at the younger age group as like, well, you were born into economic collapse. You were molded by economic collapse. And so now that you're becoming an adult, you don't have a chance to get ahead. There is no go get your first job, save up a little bit of money, move to the next space, right? And I think that people who either were raised with that dream, raised with that's what you were supposed to do, or actually were successful at it, right? Like a lot of our older Americans who were kind of successful at moving up the ladder, building a little bit of wealth. That's gone now because you either lost it. You either lost it when the last market crash happened, right? And even though it's built back up, if you retired, that was all you had. Then you couldn't retire. Medical costs have gone up. I saw that for the new health, or at least current prices on the health exchange last year or the year before that. Older Americans, 60 plus, were paying about $1,400 per month on average versus a younger American who was under that insurance was like 450. Well, we
Right.
know even though older Americans might make more money, after 60 years old, you're not earning massive
No.
amounts of money. You are ready to retire. So for your cost to be three times as much, four times as much,
And still going
and
up
still climbing.
and still go. See, that's an excellent point you made, right? Because when you're in your 60s, at the end of the day, you're not making the type of wage that you used to make,
Right.
right? And so at the end of the day, your income is stagnant.
Right.
Okay. And when cost goes up around you, then actually you're taking a back seat. You're
Mm-hmm.
backing up. Okay. So at the end of the day, it's you can never stay ahead. And look, man, I just think that there's solutions that need to be addressed and looked at. Because at the end of the day, we're teetering to an explosion, in my opinion,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because eventually people gonna get tired. This, when the shutdown happened, which now supposedly they voted, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah.
see. But at the end of the day, it exposed about healthcare, which you just brought up, okay? Which is touching not just a regular, it's touching everyone, okay? This is our point here, is that these issues are not just for a few or not just for people who live in a certain region of the world, of the country. These issues are for everyday Americans, right? But more importantly, the backbone is the middle class. So my man Sal, he jumped in. Let me put up on the screen what he said here. So Sal says companies need to increase wages to employees, especially when the company is doing well. So I totally agree, Sal. The thing is that it's not just, increase wages, because here's the thing. Some companies do that, but they'll give like a bonus. They'll give a profit sharing bonus. I know a lot of the auto industry does this, right? GM, Chrysler. If the company makes a profit, then you may get a 10,000 bonus, 15,000 bonus. That's great. Company doesn't make a profit, you may not, you probably won't get a bonus. Those things are great. But at the end of the day, we're talking pocketbook money. All right, we're talking cash flow. So the wages from salaries need to increase substantially based on the cost of living. Because here's the thing, if a company's wages are increasing, but the salaries are staying the same. So think about it for a second. A company can increase their wages, their revenue 10, 20, 30%, right? And again, it's all relative, right? So if you are a small business and you're doing $1 million a year in revenue, right? And then you increase you double that the next year, so it's $2 million, right? So you're like, I doubled mine. But if you're a company that's making 500 million or $1 billion, right? And you increase wages by 5%. Okay. Well, that 5% is a lot of money. Okay. But at the end of the day, you're giving your employees a 2% raise, a 3% raise. If they do a really good job, they get a 4%. Okay. So the company is making a ton of more money, but they're actually keeping the salaries in line. So the salaries don't grow in the same level that the company's revenue grows. You see my point? Forget a bonus. Okay, a bonus, I get it. But at the end, because the bonus is going to be taxed. Okay, so at the end of the day, the salaries should increase based on the company's revenue increase. And again, that's just one idea, but this is a reason Mark and I brought this up today, is because we want to start putting a bullhorn on these issues. And you're starting to hear it little by little, right? Healthcare, eggs, when, we're talking about groceries, when the election. But we really need to be screaming at this stuff because our so-called leaders, they're out of touch. They just are. They're out of touch. They have no clue. You a congressman, you get healthcare through the government. What are you get free healthcare. What are you talking about? Okay, you ain't got to sweat out anything. You ain't got to sweat out a premium. You got to do nothing. These guys were getting paid in the shutdown. All right. So how are you in tune with America? You are not. You can't be. You're getting paid. Buddy,
Right, they're
let's
getting
move on,
paid.
'cause
They
I
have
get
insurance for life, right? Once you hit a certain you have insurance for life. You're secure.
Buddy.
But I think you said it exactly. I'll say that people are becoming disillusioned with capitalism as it is, right? Because of that issue. That the whole purpose of it is to continue to funnel money, even though a competitive environment can be created, right? So I think what we're thinking about is how do we maintain an environment that's innovative, maintain an environment that is allows people to exchange goods and services, but does not exploit people and does not lead people to be in poverty just because of their positioning in a company, or just because they can't figure out ways to get ahead for credit, right? So, I'm thinking about that a lot.
Listen, buddy, I'm right with you, man. And look, we're going to keep bumping our heads together on this. We're going to keep screaming about this because at the end of the day, something needs to be done. Because, I have a 18-year-old and 17-year-old, right? What's the average house cost of a house now? $400,000,
Right.
right?
On the low end.
Think
in some
about that.
places.
Think about $400,000.
Right.
All right. A starter home.
What,
$400K.
quote unquote start.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Think about that, right?
Right.
It just now I just read something too before we go to the next segment. I think it was in the Wall Street Journal. Was it yesterday, day before? I think it was yesterday when they were like, they're thinking now of doing 50-year mortgages.
Absurd. Just
Wait a
a
minute.
lifetime
Instead of just
debt.
bringing, buddy, think about it. Instead of just bringing the cost down. No, we're just going to do instead of 30-year mortgage, you're going to do a 50-year mortgage.
I will say this. If you choose to take on a 50-year mortgage,
A 50-year mortgage. That's how you solve the problem. A 50-year mortgage. All right. The monthly payment will come down.
but that'll be the only thing and the last thing you pay.
buddy, that house would be so upside down. You could never leave.
Put the back in mortgage to death, because that's basically what they're asking you to do. I mean,
But you're going to die in the house. You die in the house. It's a
You get one
50-year
shot.
mortgage. This is it. You could die. You might as well do the funeral there too.
basically, look, we'll bring it back. The parlor at the front of the house where they used to lay it out on the table.
This is the solution. A 50-year mortgage. I mean,
But that shows you how out of touch.
out of
people are,
touch, buddy.
right?
Out of
Because
stop. Out
we've
of
been working
touch.
so hard to reduce the level of debt that people carry. I could tell you, people are saddled with student loan debt. And then you say, well, after these 30 years of paying your student loans, if you pay them off, you still have 20 years to another on your mortgage.
On the mortgage.
Right. And if you had to wait till after it, you will die before that mortgage is paid off. Like,
Hold on. If you get reincarnated and you come back,
you come back.
they could be like, oh no, you still owe this bill.
Right. But you'd
gotta
be
live
like
back in this
a
house.
moth or something inside of the
Oh,
hole
man.
that you still have the
I mean,
mortgage.
you make a good point, right? You have college loans, right? Which takes 30 years to pay those back. Then you're going to have a 50-year mortgage. So between going to school and getting a house, that's it.
That's it. That's all
It's,
your money.
it's really sad. But here's the other thing, though, bro, that's really sad.
President Trump has pardoned some of his most loyal allies from the 2020 era, all accused of trying to aid in his efforts to overturn the 2020 election results when he lost the White House to Joe Biden. On the pardon list, former Trump attorneys Rudy Giuliani and Sidney Powell, as well as the president's former chief of staff, Mark Meadows.
This is a symbolic move, but it still just underscores President Trump's efforts to kind of rewrite the history of the 2020 election. And I'll just read for you a little bit of the sort of preamble, which is pretty striking when it describes its intent here. It says, this proclamation ends a grave national injustice perpetrated upon the American people following the 2020 presidential election and continues the process of national reconciliation.
This is a presidential pardon, so it only impacts federal criminal cases.
Can you talk about the larger trend that seems to be happening here when it comes to the DOJ and what happened on January 6th?
Well, I think there's an unmistakable trend here to rewrite and sanitize January 6th. It's been going on since day one of the Trump administration. First, let's remember we had pardons of 1,500 plus people who were at the riot on January 6th. Then we had firings of dozens of career prosecutors and law enforcement agents who were simply doing their job in prosecuting those cases. Then a week or two ago, we saw 2 veteran DOJ prosecutors suspended because they happened to reference January 6th as a mob and as a riot. And now we have this. And if you look at the preamble to this pardon, it specifically says, essentially, this is intended to make people think differently and look differently back at January 6th. So I don't think there's any way to ignore that trend.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely no way to ignore that. I mean, but we knew it was coming, right? We can't say that when we think back last year in 2024, we can't say when we think back to January 2021, where even at that point, he already tried to change the narrative. So we can't say it, we didn't expect this coming. But I think what's more absurd is that people believed everything that they said against, the Biden administration, about the Obama administration, about every other person. But these people are actually doing the very things that they said and accused everyone else of. And when you don't acknowledge the blatant hypocrisy up front, right? I think we lose ourselves in trying to get down into the essence of it when it's hypocritical, and they knew what they were doing. And this has been the strategy for this whole time. It's project, right? Project it on someone, make people believe this about other people so that when we do it, it doesn't look as bad. Or when we do it, it comes up as justified when these things actually didn't happen. Right?
Right.
So you have career lawyers getting fired for doing their job when the evidence is overwhelming that this happened. There were cameras. We saw it. I sat on my couch during a work day because we were remote. During a work day, and we're watching it happen. And yet somehow, people were like, no, it was just a tour. What? Seriously.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah. I mean, look, it's really so, and you said hypocrisy. I have so many thoughts on this, and it really, and to your point, it tries to insult your intelligence, right? We all saw what we saw. We witnessed it. The whole country did, right? Not only that, he's no longer the head of the Senate, but Mitch McConnell went off on Trump, right? If everybody remember that, blamed Trump, said it was his fault, right? The dude that was the head of Congress, he's no longer out in California. He same thing. It was people came on, people resigned from his administration, the whole 9 yards, right? And then now all of a sudden, and not now, this didn't just happen overnight. To your point, we saw this coming. This is just little by little trying to rewrite history. And here's the thing that drives me crazy. Like I said, I have so many different thoughts on this. Number one, this person is talking about law and order. This person is talking about sending National Guard to cities because he wants their crime is out of control. Okay, which we know is all BS, it's all bullshit. Okay, because here's the thing. He's already, look how many crimes he has broken. Look at the people who've broken crimes that he has pardoned. What was the number? 1,500 people that participated in the insurrection. Okay, got pardons. Okay, now his cronies, Giuliani, Mark Meadows, who's the chief of staff, right? And yeah, it's symbolic, but it just goes to show, hey, I'm in power, do my dirty work, and I'm gonna take care of you. All right. And then not only that, you flaunt it in our faces. All right. And here's the kicker. Well, other presidents can pardon people. They could do. Well, wait a minute. Let's look at the facts here. Typically, presidents pardon people as what, Mark? Is one of the last things that they do on the way out the door. On the way out the door. Okay? On the way out the door. Okay? Typically, letters have to be written. Lobbyists have to. There's a lot goes into getting the president to pardon certain people. Okay? Now, have there been people who've pardoned their brother or their... Yeah, probably so. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Nobody's saying that's not the case. Okay. We understand that as a president, you can pardon anybody, but typically it's done on the way out the door. So this way, it's not thrown in the American people's face. Number two, it's I did it. People get over it and they move on. All right. This dude is pardoning people left and right. I mean, didn't just who else? He pardoned these people, but he just also pardoned
someone who
swindled
us for swindlers.
Well, the Christies got pardoned. Wait a minute, they got $30 million that they stole. Buddy, evidence overwhelming. He did it. 9 yards. He pardons them. All right. But then at the same time, you want to send National Guard troops and talk about crime when you're letting criminals go. Right. And all because they kiss up to you. But it was somebody else. It was somebody else just the other day. Some insignificant situation, he pardoned them, right? I mean, this dude's just pardoning people left and right. And that's that monarchy type mindset.
If you can pay for access,
buddy, if you can pay, or you show me love, you kiss my ring, you do whatever I need you to do, I'll take care of you. So at the end of the day, how can you talk about being about law and order? And you want the country to be about law and order. And you talk about how great our police officers and all these, and they are. But at the end of the day, you don't follow law and order. Okay? It's beneath you. It's beneath you. Okay? And that's the problem. So so let me ask you a question. Do you think there's a two-tier justice in our system?
There's always been a two-tiered justice. I mean, you separated court, you've separated by race, right, in your justice system, and then once you couldn't really separate that, we're seeing cases after case that are either getting tossed out, judges getting turned around because it's like, oh, well, this judge was finally caught, over punishing this select group of black kids, and so now we have to call into question every other case that this judge has overseen because of now overwhelming evidence that you were a racist and you used your racist belief to help shape and color those cases. And we've been seeing that for decades and generations. I say decades, right? But honestly, that's been happening since as long as black people and other non-white races have had fair trials, right? Or at least a trial. Because they weren't fair before that.
They had to your point. They had a trial. It was supposed to be a trial, right? It was called a trial, right? But the deck was already stacked.
Right? And I think about this. It's he's not anti-crime. He's anti-your crime, right? He's anti the crime that doesn't benefit him. And those are one, signs of narcissism. But secondly, we know that we're on authoritarian slide. And when I say on authoritarian slide, I mean we're on the slide. Like, we're not at the top looking down. We're in the middle of the slide, and we are not far from touching the bottom. And I think people really don't realize that because he has found a way to connect with the rage and anger of people who are angry for good reason, right? They don't have enough money anymore. They've lost economic opportunity. Everything keeps going up. But they place the blame, right? Consistently. They've always pinned the blame on somebody else. So
there's no question.
Right? And with that blame, that's also been one of the big things that have held back our progress to move towards better systems, to put in new laws. Because if I can just blame you, then I'm going to vote against my own interests to hope that the crime right? The crimes that are being committed, or hope that the person I don't like gets punished more. And now, there, yes, probably we're getting punished more, but you're getting punished pretty badly in that belief. And now they don't know how to respond, right? Because we see it consistently. I'm mad at everything happening, right? Even with these pardons. I'm mad at the pardons, but I'm not. I will still vote for him again, or I don't regret my vote.
And so here's the thing. That's a troubling part right there, because that's how you get to the monarchy, is that people have already bended the knee, and so no matter what you do, they're still gonna back you, okay? And they don't know they're cutting their own throat because they're so loyal to a fault, and a lot of that, in my estimation, is ignorance, okay? And then more importantly, believing that somebody. See, here's the thing. What you're saying is that, hey, I got somebody that listened to me. That's really what this is about. They listen to me. And so because they listen to me, I'm going to just follow them to off the cliff. Okay. And at the end of the day, that makes no sense. Number two, to putting blame on people. You're 100% right. It's always about they did it. And that's how you create the narrative. And that's how that same narrative is being used in this situation. Okay.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, if you remember when the insurrection was going on, they were saying that those were Antifa people there.
Right.
Okay.
So, Trump pardoned 1,500 Antifa. We could just put it out there.
So hold on. But it was the Antifa. It wasn't. It was. That's what I'm saying. It wasn't us. It was them. You know what I'm saying? That's the narrative, right? And so when you always can blame somebody else, especially if you use race as part of it, because really, to be fair, that's really what it is about, bro.
Right.
All right. I'm not saying these pardons is about it. I'm just talking about the narrative in terms of blaming they took your job, or they're creating policies for them, and that's why you ain't got nothing. And then so people start believing that because they're living in their own world, right? And they think, if I live in a certain area and if I don't have no diversity or nothing around me, and then all I'm watching is a news program that tells me that the reason this factory moved out of here because they had to move so they can give black people, Hispanic people more jobs, or they're just hiring people just based on the color, they don't have to be qualified. And you keep hearing that over and over again. You don't see no evidence. You don't see nothing, but you keep hearing it. You will believe it. Okay. Right. And so and then you don't ask the follow-up question. So not to sidetrack, but I give you an example. Right, DEI, they're just hiring black people of color who's not qualified, and they're just giving them jobs over and over. Okay, name the company. What's the name of the companies?
Right.
Okay, they have never said the name because there's no such thing. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, if they knew that if this was real, they would say the names of the companies.
Right,
They
but
never
remember,
said the
many
names of
times
the companies.
They don't believe in sources.
But no. But my point is, that's my point. My point is that at the end of the day, that should have told you right off the bat. Okay, wait a minute. Because when a company does something wrong that they got evidence on, they got no problem throwing that company under the bus. They got no problem naming that company. So why didn't you name the companies about this? Because it wasn't true, but it don't matter. It's about a narrative. And that same narrative was used, part of that narrative, when it came to, the insurrection. And so this dude is pardoning people left and right, okay? And he's doing it right in our faces. Okay, and basically it's saying, what was that? What was it? No King's Day. Remember they had that?
Yeah,
No King's Day.
Yep.
And then what was his answer to that?
He just,
you remember?
For the video, there's so many parts of the video. Yeah,
no.
He just video of him shitting all over
video?
Everybody, right? So I saw that, and I'm like,
so that tell you. So what does that tell you? What does that tell you? What's that tell you?
He's like, it's a joke to him, right? And I think there's a gravity that has to happen in this, where I'm like, at some point you have to sit back, and I'm hoping more and more people are sitting back and saying, every promise that he's provided, and then I say that most promises he's provided that were supposed to lead to some positive growth, some positive benefit, has not come to fruition. Every promise that he's tried that would lead to negative impacts, He is pushing those out full force. So when people are like, like when he's pardoning people, that's what he said he would do. He does not believe that they
Flat out.
did anything wrong. And if they did something wrong, they did it for the right reason. So you should be on their side. And I think that's
Listen.
an increasing challenge for all of us, right? Because how do you counter that?
Listen. When the insurrection was going on and they were telling him to tell his people to go home, what did he said? They were great
They
patriots.
were great, right?
Okay. So at the end of the day, this dude is all about him. Okay. And anybody that he feels loyal to him. Right. And see, here's the thing. I disagree with you a little bit when you said he doesn't think they did anything wrong. He knows they did something wrong. Right. But this dude is not, he come on, bro. He knows.
He's
ain't dumb.
communicating.
He knows they
Let
did
me say
right.
it that way. He's
Right.
communicating
Right.
to
He
his
communic-
followers
because
that we did nothing wrong. Let me say it that way. Yeah.
But also he's, to your point, using the word communicate, he's communicating to them, when they do something wrong, I'll take care of you.
I'll take care of you.
Okay? That's the communication. He knows they did something wrong, right? But at the end of the day, his thing is, you do it, I'll take care of you. Okay? And that's what you're seeing here, man. And it's really a slap in the face. But you know what? Like you said, we shouldn't be surprised. But listen, my brother, I think it's time for us to wrap up. But more importantly, my man, I'm just ecstatic having you on the show today.
Yeah, it's
just
been a
great to
joy.
hear your perspective. You were awesome. We're definitely going to have you come back, right? And then, Javi, I got to say something. Sal threw this in. I threw it up. I'm going to throw it back up again real quick. Sal was saying, hey, the crypto criminal, Trump pardoned him because the Trump family is huge on crypto. Now they're just playing crooked authority and lawlessness. So, but I also want to thank Sal again for coming on, and Terry Love. Thanks, Terry, for joining as well. We really appreciate you guys coming and checking out BEP Live. Again, I appreciate my friend Mark Jamison. We ask you to continue to follow us. Check out Need to Know with Dr. Nasinga Burton tomorrow, every Thursday on the Black Executive Perspective podcast. She's going to dive into some stuff. You guys got to listen to it. And then, check out our roundtable, Pull Up, Speak Up, which Mark was a participant in the roundtable a few episodes back. So definitely check out Pull Up, Speak Up here on the Black Executive Perspective podcast. Continue to follow us. Come to our website. Sign up for the newsletter, which is called The Monthly Perspective. We just launched it October, so definitely sign up for the newsletter, providing a lot of great information for you guys to be able to look. You'll know more about all of our episodes, blogs. We're having guests write different type of things, providing their perspectives. So definitely come and sign up for the Monthly Perspective. And don't forget to follow us on all of our social channels, which is YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn at A Black Exec. For my fabulous co-host today, my man Mark Jamison, I'm Tony Tidbit. We talked about it. We learned about it. We definitely laughed about it. We got upset about it, especially when it comes to the middle class stuff, right? But regardless, we love you. And guess what? We're out.
A Black Executive Perspective.